Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the 10 steps. And the 10 steps are very important to learn and to master because they give you a format or a procedure to follow when answering questions. Now this doesn't include answering questions that are calculations. It only includes questions that involve looking material up in the code book. It's the single most important skill that you could develop because all the questions that that require you looking up will depend on this process. So it's important to master this skill. Don't try to go it alone. Just follow the steps in order and you'll be okay. So I made this video as a reminder to practice and to master these steps. The first thing you'll need before you start is a score sheet. It looks like this. And it shows the 10 steps right here. I just cut off the last two. But what's key here is important to start with a time. Be careful to record your start time. I want you to get in the habit of recording a start time because it's a time test and you're going to have to learn to work under a little pressure. And I want all your practice work to be timed as well. So it's very important to start with that. Okay, so the first step is to read the question and the answers very carefully. And the reason I want you to do this is to avoid any kind of wording mistakes. You might want to try reading out loud or with your lips. You could also try reading with your fingers, and this will enable you to catch words like except for, words like minimum or maximum, greater than or less than, and it's important to observe the answers also because they oftentimes give clues to finding the answers in the code book. So we're going to start with exam number 1, question 1, and it reads like this. The standard ampere ratings for fuses and inverse time circuit breakers consists of the following ratings except for A 125, B 175, C 200, and D 240. So the second step in the 10 steps is to go to the index path in my notebook. And that's what you received in my course. So immediately in the back of the chapter, after exam 1, there'll be an index path and there'll be answers to the questions as well. I want you to turn immediately to the index path. Don't try to think of the index path alone. It's going to take a lot of time. But what the index path is are words that will direct you to the sections in the code book. After turning to the index path, step 3 is to read the index path. And for the first question, it shows that the circuit breakers is the word that you look up in the index of the code book. But so these are just directions to what to look up in the code book. Notice that these are the first main topic is bold, and there are subtopics underneath the main topic that are not bold. So the index path gives you the words to look up in the index of the code book. And as I mentioned, boldface identifies main topics. The indented text identifies subtopics. But what I really want you to look at to observe is the relationship between the question and the index path. And over time you'll learn to identify the index path for yourself, but for now just follow the 10 steps, and through repetition that will allow you to come up with your own index path as you do it on your own. So observing the relationship between the index path, you see that there are fuses. The main topic that they're talking about is fuses or circuit breakers. In this case, I chose circuit breakers. So what I want, what the index path is, are the words describing what words to look up in the codebook index. And to observe this relationship between the circuit breakers, between this question and what I have you look up in the index path. The fourth step is to go to the index of the codebook using my index path. The beginning of the index in the codebook starts on page 830, and it's alphabetized by main topics, and below those main topics are subtopics that are also alphabetized and that are not bold. So this is an example from the index in the codebook under circuit breakers, which is the bold main heading here, and under those are subtopics, and they're also alphabetized and indented. So this starts the first column. When that second middle column continues, I photographed another picture of it, and the middle column up at the top of the same page begins the middle column here, and you can see that ratings and fixed trip circuit breakers are there, and it demonstrates, or it shows, some addresses here. The fifth step is to write those articles or tables references on the score sheet, and by doing this, it provides a single location for all the articles associated with that topic. Don't try to remember the articles or tables. You don't have to memorize what articles and tables you looked up because you're writing them down. And you could return to them if you can't find the answer. You could return to them without having to look them up again. And this just helps to keep you organized. So you've written, step 5 is to write these articles on a score sheet. You've written them on a score sheet here. And step 6 now is to turn to the article or table in the codebook where it's directing you. Turn to the addresses that it's directing you. So when you're turning pages, try to find a comfortable and convenient and efficient way to turn pages. What's helpful for me is to turn up the corners of the page and see the section number. And you could also mark with paper clips the index or annex or tables articles that you're often turning to all the time for questions. Remember that the tables are located in the same section as the article, and to find the table or article and look for the answer to the question. So this is what you've wrote down in your score sheet, and basically you turn to the first article that's listed. In our case, it's 240.6a, and that's where you would start reading and looking for the answer to the question. Step 7, read the article and search for the answer. So once the article or table is found, recall the question and answers and determine which is the correct choice. The article that you turn to will usually be exactly where the answer is. If not, you might have to scan before articles to find the answer. You might have to scan before or after the article in order to find the answers. And you're looking for main topics, main bold topics. You're also looking to match words and or numbers. So as you recall the question, the standard ampere ratings or fuses in town circuit breakers consists of the following ratings except for 125, 175, 200, 240. You look back at the address that you looked at and you don't find a 240 here. So you would choose the correct answer and record it. In this case, the correct answer is D. My index path and the addresses would most all the time work. If not, or if they don't work that small percentage of the time, then just make your best guess, mark the question, and come back to it later. So you've recorded your correct answer here on the score sheet as D. And you could check the path in the answers as step 9. Located after the index path at the back of the chapter are the answers and the references, the correct references. If your answer is correct, great. If your answer is not correct, try to determine why or how you made the mistake and correct it. These are the answers in the back with the references. And step 10 asks you to go to the next question. So follow the 10 steps exactly how they're written. Repetition, remember, is key. Don't try to do this alone too soon. It's going to take a lot of practice to develop an intuitive sense of the main topic of the question. And repeat the test. This is key. That is to repeat the test until you can do it again with references in under an hour with 90% or better. Now, you're going to start remembering the answers, and that's okay. But what's more important than that is how you found the answer, the references. So the key point here is to don't move to the next exam until you can answer all the questions with references and score 90% or better. So the repetition is key. Be patient, give yourself some time to learn, and remember not to move on to the next exam until you could answer all the questions with 90% or better with the references for the exam that you're on. So good luck to you, and you're going to do just fine with repetition.